Welcome to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast, your dirty birds every weekend. Alright, and welcome back one and all to a Falcons Fanatic Podcast. I am your host as always, Lucky Roberts, and I'm here talking to you after the Atlanta Falcons lose to the Chicago Bears 37-17. Today basically marks the end of the season, although a Saints win does help the Falcons technically stay alive, as the Buccaneers now have lost the division lead and the Saints are now in control of it. And the Falcons actually can ruin their season with a win next week. And if the Falcons win against the Saints next week and the Panthers beat the Buccaneers, the Falcons win the division in a horrible NFC South and actually go to the playoffs. And as much as I would love that, to first of all get one over on the Saints, and second of all, one over on the Buccaneers as well, but also just to have an experience in the playoffs and have more than 7 wins on a season would make me happy. But, it's been 5 of the last 6 years where we've been 7-win team, and this year looks to be no different. We're 7-9 now after what was just a disgusting loss to the Bears, who are also now 7-9. Justin Fields sort of auditioned for him to really come into the fold as a Falcons player next year, as there's been lots of talk for him to get traded, as the Bears will have the first overall pick courtesy of the Carolina Panthers, as that was solidified today. And so maybe they move on from Justin Fields in what is a stacked quarterback class with, obviously Caleb Williams, Drake May, and others. A very deep class in this draft. And we could see Justin Fields in an Atlanta Falcons jersey. And first of all, watching today, it will be a huge upgrade again over what we have now with Taylor Heinicke and Desmond Ridder both taking snaps today, both throwing interceptions today. And you can blame the snow and the rain all you want, but you saw Justin Fields handle it entirely different than you saw Taylor Heinicke and Desmond Ridder. And it was interesting because Taylor Heinicke started out so good, and the Falcons drive down 2 really strong drives to start the game off some big plays. There was a big play by Bijan to start. And Taylor Heinicke himself, they had some big plays, and it just didn't really turn out for them the way you would have hoped, because after those drives, there was one kicker who is the highest paid kicker in the league, one of the best kickers I still do believe in the league, Younghoe Koo. 1 for 3 today from field goal. First 2 possessions, first 2 drives, misses both field goals. 1 from 50, 1 from 43. The 50, there was a lot more snow going for the 50-yarder, and maybe it was windier, who can say. But Younghoe Koo, you can't miss both of them. And the 43-yarder was really one you have to knock down, because it's, in 3 weeks he's had 2 games where he's missed multiple field goals, and that's going to swing things. And you can see, it swung the game against the Buccaneers, as I was talking about earlier, and it swung the game today against the Bears. And it's not like this Bears game was going to be affected if we kick those field goals, looking at it back from now. But who knows how different this game would have played out if the Falcons get those 6 points early on, and instead of trailing 14-0 or trailing 14-6, and after that Tyler Algier 75-yard touchdown, which was the only joy I felt from this game, they would have only been down 13. We go for 2 maybe, right? It's tied up. Bears feeling a little worried. And so this game really could have turned out differently if those things happen. But I think, this whole season, the Atlanta Falcons defense has been covering up the holes and the errors of the offense. And the offense had plenty of errors today, but also the defense had plenty of errors. First of all, DJ Moore, who had an insane game against us last season for Carolina, had another similarly incredible game. He had 159 and a touchdown. He had, tiptoeing on the sideline, seems to get open every single time. I don't know why earlier on in this game and even later on We continue to have Clark Phillips III, who's a rookie, a small rookie, and I know DJ Moore isn't the biggest of receivers, but we had Clark Phillips III on him, and our other cornerback, AJ Terrell, Pro Bowler a couple seasons ago. Why is he not the one guarding him? AJ Terrell is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, best young cornerbacks, and he's not the one who's guarding DJ Moore, their best receiver, one-on-one. And there's just little things like that just get you baffled. Once again, we kept losing contained, and I know that's going to happen with Justin Fields. But you see him freak out multiple times where it's third down and the Atlanta Falcons need a stop, and he has nowhere to go with the football. And so he's going to be running it. And the Falcons get pressure. He breaks one tackle, fine. And you can't wrap up. Everybody loses their contain. They allow him to outrun them instead of playing in their contain and playing within the game and playing within their abilities. And instead they allow Justin Fields to escape and get a first down. And if they just weren't so hungry for that sack, who knows? I mean, I don't think he runs for those 20-yard pickups. That really screwed the Falcons later on in this game when they needed the offense to get on the field. But then again, seeing what the offense did when they did get on the field with those 3 picks in the fourth, it may not have changed much. And just talking about the quarterbacks, Taylor Heineke, played most of the snaps. Ritter went in for one sequence, threw a pick. I won't really talk about it. His hand got hit as he released it. It was intercepted by the Bears. It was garbage time. Game was over. Taylor Heineke throws 3 interceptions, all 3 his fault. One of them he throws, and it's just not deep enough. It's sort of like an out route, and he does not put enough arm on it, intercepted by the Bears, where the Falcons need every single possession, and if they do score there, they can cut it to a 3-point game and really put their imprint back in the game. And instead, Heineke short arms a throw on the sideline, and the Bears are able to capitalize with the touchdown. Once again. And the other 3 of these picks are all in the middle of the field where Taylor Heineke's throwing it, at somebody's foot or 2 feet behind him. A lot of them were just trailing throws, and he's done this the entire game. And he's not only missing these throws deep to Kyle Pitts, you saw, where he had a touchdown right there. He just stuck out his hands, it seemed like. He's overthrowing Kyle Pitts. He's underthrowing Kyle Pitts. The Kadarius Hodge one is on entirely Kadarius Hodge. That one pissed me off. He was, right on his hands. He bounces it, bobbles it on third down and long. Needed it. It was actually probably the best throw of Taylor Heineke's day. And, it was full of bad throws and then bad decision-making as he misses wide-open receivers seemingly all the time. He's forcing it into these tight windows, which is a criticism of Desmond Ridder, but he's doing the same thing. And after last week, you're thinking, what a step up Taylor Heineke is from Desmond Ridder. And you really realize he's not. And you realize who the true step up is Justin Fields. And so usually you think, well, if we don't have the passing going on, we're going to try to run the football. And we just couldn't because we were just down by 2 scores just way too early. And that is Young Wei Koo's fault. And it's just still a very, very tough sequence of events for the Falcons. And it encapsulates basically this whole season and what being an Atlanta Falcons fan really is. The first one was on a third down, and the Atlanta Falcons can get the football back if we just get a sack, incompletion, anything. And honestly, this happened a lot of times, as I was explaining earlier, but we've got the rush. We've got Justin Fields. We have him in our hands. Literally, we're holding his leg. I think it may have been Zach Harrison, not entirely sure. We're holding him down, planted him to the ground, and he just steps out of it, and nobody else is there to finish the tackle, and he runs for another 20 yards, and it ices the Atlanta Falcons, and it ices the game. Really, really disappointing stuff. And then the second the score was 21-7, and the Bears had an opportunity to make it 24-7 on a 50-plus yard kick at the end of the half. The Falcons were lucky not to have given up even more than they did. It was an interception by Taylor Heineke. They were lucky enough not to give up a touchdown, give up a field goal, because the Bears kicker missed it. It was short, and that was sort of how the day was for the kickers. It was short, and it was returned by D. Alford. And as soon as you see it happen, you're thinking, you can feel it. Something's good gonna happen on this play. And the only good option here is a touchdown. And D. Alford returns it. He takes a couple seconds. There's 3 Bears defenders, I guess they're linemen, offenders, but there's 3 Bears players right there around D. Alford, and he just slips through. They get just a fingertip on him, but he's able to slip around, and he tracks back, goes backwards, and finds a hole, a lane, because that's how they always do it, is they track back, and he tracks back, finds a lane. He's got blockers in front of him, and you think, oh my goodness, he's actually going to do it. And it's going to be an 109-yard return back for a touchdown, kick 6, a very rare play, something you never see. And he gets there, and you see the kicker's the only guy in his path. There's a blocker in front of him. He waits for the blocker to come, and he realizes, I can split him instead. And he tries to split the kicker and this offensive lineman who's the only guy who can catch him. And they just pull his shoulder back. And they get that shoulder pull and that shoulder tug, and he continues to run, and he trips him up. It trips him up. He falls flat on his face at the 10-yard line. And the Atlanta Falcons once again come up short. And it just encapsulates the hope that you feel and just how it gets ruined every single time. And that's what it is to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. It's the hope and then the despair. And it's the same cycle over and over again. And it happens every game. It happens every season. It happens all the time, many times throughout the game. And I know we're not the only team to experience this, but it just feels so real to us. And it's just the consistency of it is what really, really hammers it in for the Falcons. And another disappointing thing that happened in this game is just the lack of pressure we were able to get. There was a couple of possessions, a couple of plays earlier on in this game where you see players like Calais Campbell get in the backfield. He had a couple TFLs. He almost got a sack on Justin Fields, but it was a bunch of almost sacks. Caden Ellis came in with one when he was just completely unblocked, just straight through the A-gap. And we have 2 other sacks on the day, but 3 sacks isn't enough, especially when one is just entirely, a free sack, a free rusher. And so the 2 sacks that we got, Bud Dupree and David Onyemata, was just basically a coverage sack where we should have had way more coverage sacks. And Lorenzo Carter, basically the same thing. We never see a defensive end straight out beat an offensive tackle, or there's never a quick move or a powerful move that we see and it's an instant sack. And you can chalk that up to Justin Fields. You can chalk that up to not having the talent. It's just been so long of this. And it's refreshing when we do see it. Like we saw Zach Harrison come in and do some of that. He had a fine game, not as good as he was the last couple of weeks. He got injured in this one. And there was a little bit of that where you saw AK, Arnold Ebiketie. He had a little 4-sack run in 4 games, but it seems to be all gone now. And they were not able to cover up the Atlanta Falcons offense's mistakes. And that's why the loss was much more bigger than our past losses, and why the Bears scored 37 points in this one. And as good as Justin Fields was, and as good as DJ Moore was, it just really was not enough. The only player I can really say had a good game was Jesse Bates on the defensive side of the ball. He led the team in tackles today, as he always does. He had a very nice TFL on Justin Fields on a third, second and goal opportunity. He tries to break it to the outside, tries to get across the edge, and Jesse Bates matches him step for step, pushes him out of bounds as he's fallen down, and it was a really great effort, and something that you would have liked to see from the entire defense, from the entire team, was just a bigger effort. And you did not see it, and you see it in Jesse Bates every single time, and every single time he's on the field. But the Falcons just do not possess that effort at this current moment. And it's frustrating. And I think that stems all the way across, all the way down from the front office. And I think, there needs to be some changes, and I'm sure there will be after this loss. Changes are imminent, probably after next week with the Saints game, unless a miracle happens and the Falcons are somehow seeing themselves in the playoffs. Receiving-wise, like I said, Drake London had 56 yards. Tyler Algier had his one screen pass, 75 yards, the only positive feeling in the entire game. And let me read out the other stats to you for the receivers. Van Jefferson, 3 receptions, 19 yards. He actually got open a bunch today, and he continued to be missed by Taylor Heineke. He had actually a better game than what we've seen. He was getting open all the time, getting the ball thrown to him. 5 targets, only 3 receptions, and 19 yards. He was the third leading receiver. Michael Pruitt, 1 catch, 14 yards. Bijan Robinson, 3 for 11. Kyle Pitts, 1 for 5 on 5 targets. Kaden Hodge, 2 targets. Jonnu Smith, 4 targets. A couple of them drops. Neither of them got a catch. But I think mainly all those targets are missed throws. Missed throws. 10 for 29. That's like a 30% completion percentage from Taylor Heineke. Despicable. It's gross. I don't want to see that number on my screen. What is that? You hate to see it. You really do. Because it was a horrible watch today. And I was watching last night the Cowboys-Lions game, and I was thinking, man, how much I would pay to have a couple of these throws happen in our game. The throws Dak Prescott was making, Jared Goff was making. I would be happy to see 3 of those throws happen in a game, and we're seeing 3 on a possession. These quarterbacks are so bad. I'm trying to find a better word, but they're just bad. They're not good at football, and you thought you had to step up in Taylor Heineke, and you didn't. And the receivers are the ones who take the fall there, because they had so many missed throws that really should have been right in their hands. And Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, not even the top quarterbacks in the league, none of those guys are top 5 quarterbacks, they would have put it in the hands at least, because that's what you get paid to do. It's frustrating. The one thing to Taylor Heineke's credit today that he did to a decent level is he did extend plays and get a couple first downs rushing. Actually had a rushing touchdown, about 23-yard scamper. That was basically the only success he had today on that football field. Tyler Algier in the rushing game, useless, 5 for 13. He had one play where he sort of pushed the pile all by himself, and that was all. That was memorable from him. Disappointing. Bijan Robinson tried to get stuff going, but once again, he had a 21-yard rush. Other than that, nothing really to speak on. Early in the game, he had that 21-yard rush. 15 for 75, it's fine. But especially early on in the game, he was bottled up. And he was able to find some rushing lanes as, basically the last scoring drive the Falcons had in that fourth quarter, the touchdown drive, he was able to run a little bit. And that was basically the majority of his production today, 15 for 75 yards. On the whole, the Atlanta Falcons season is over, and it was being a frustrating one, more frustrating than almost all of them in the past 6 years have been because of the expectations that we've had coming in. And I'm sure they will be addressed, and I'm confident that this team will be good in the upcoming years because I can see it right there, and that's what makes it so frustrating. But who knows? The Atlanta Falcons, 7-9, need a miracle to make the playoffs, and me and you will see that next week when the Falcons play the Saints, They need that and the Buccaneers to lose to the Panthers, the worst team in the league. But the Falcons did lose to the Panthers, so who knows what will happen there. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the other scores around the league and then have you guys on your way. So I'll see you in a sec. So let's distract ourselves with some other scores around the league. The Bills beat the Patriots in what was a close game. They win 27-21. The Patriots finally doing what they need to do and taking some losses. I'm sure that's not what they were hoping for. I'm sure it's not what Bill Belichick was hoping for, as you know, his season and his place in New England is getting a little rocky. But the Bills take it 10-6 now and solidifying themselves into a playoff spot with a victory there. The Colts beat the Raiders, and they were leading big at one point, and the Raiders came back in the third in that second half, in the fourth as well, putting up 10 points, but they were not able to squeak it out, and the Colts won 23-20 over the Raiders. They're now 9-7, and the Raiders are now 7-9. Colts trying to figure their way out in the AFC South. The Rams beat the Giants. Giants only losing by 1 point. It would have really helped out the Falcons for the Giants to win this football game, but once again, the Falcons need to take care of their own business first, and they were unable to do so. And the Rams, looking to steal that wild card spot as they did, beat the Giants in a game they really should have won. But the Giants made it hard for them with a touchdown late, but it was not enough. Cardinals versus the Eagles. The Cardinals surprise everyone, beat the Eagles in a game where Julio Jones had 2 touchdowns. Very, very happy. The one thing other than that Tyler Algier touchdown that gave me some happiness. Cardinals beat the Eagles 35-31. They're now 4-12. Cardinals, one of those 4 teams beating the Falcons that they've beaten. And it was a second half comeback, late score with 20 seconds left. James Conner scores it against the Eagles. The Eagles fans in shambles. They're now 11-5. Look how far they have fallen. The Saints beat the Buccaneers. The one, thing we can take home is that the Falcons still have a chance. And I don't think any Falcons fan were truly cheering for the Saints. But I don't think they were cheering for the Bucs either. It was sort of a lose-lose type situation, and the Saints won. And that would have helped us out if we did our business, but we didn't. 49ers Commanders. 49ers beat the Commanders expectingly 27-10. Brock Purdy, sort of a bounce back game, sort of not. Commanders have a decent defense, I guess you could say, with Chase Young there, but really Brock Purdy doing what he needs to. He's sort of fallen out of that MVP race, but they do get the win and are now 12-4. The Jaguars beat the Panthers 26-0. Panthers are going to need to take a step up if they need to beat the Buccaneers, but at least now they've solidified that first overall pick so they don't have to worry about tanking. And so hopefully, maybe that will make a difference as they, 2 weeks ago, almost beat the Packers, who are not a bad team themselves. And so 2 more games here for you. The Ravens beating the Dolphins 56-19, really helping out my fantasy team in the finals. Lamar Jackson, what a performance. It's just going to be a little too late. I need a huge performance from Justin Jefferson because I'm down about 20 points right now for me to come back and win the championship. It was a good performance by my team, but just an even better performance by my opponent, mainly because of DJ Moore. But that happens. The Ravens win 56-19, really showing how dominant they are after back-to-back good wins against tough opponents in the 49ers and the Dolphins, and they are looking like a Super Bowl contender, Super Bowl favorite even. And finally, the last game to talk about on the docket here, Texans-Titans. The Texans beat the Titans, wasn't close at any point. Derrick Henry not doing me a favor in fantasy. They only scored 3 points, and because of that, he wasn't really able to get as many touches as I would have liked to see him, as the Texans win, move to 9-7 in a crammed AFC South. But that's going to do it for me here today. The Falcons Fanatic Podcast. Thanks for listening. Follow me on Twitter, whatever. And yeah, I'll be here next week to talk to you when the Falcons play the Saints, and that's going to be the season unless a miracle occurs. Anyway, thanks for listening, and as always, go home, think about other things. Don't worry about the Falcons. It's tough out here. Anyway, thanks for listening. Follow me on Twitter, whatever you want to do, and I'll see you guys. Bye.